Have you ever stopped to think about what really lies behind a simple coconut? At first glance, it may seem like just another tropical fruit, round, hard, common, found in markets, supermarkets, kitchens, and even in cosmetics. But behind that thick, fibrous shell, not only nutrients and exotic flavors are hidden, but also a complex chain of industrial processes, invisible stories, and cutting-edge technologies that operate silently in factories around the world. It is much more than it seems. Much more than you imagine. What begins as a fruit swinging at the top of a palm tree in a tropical region ends up, almost as if by magic, transformed into crystalline oil, sophisticated sweets, refreshing drinks, and resistant fibers that infiltrate even sectors of agriculture and the textile industry. But how exactly does this transformation happen? What mechanisms exist between the moment the coconut is harvested and the moment it reaches you, disguised in a pretty label or hidden in a beauty formula? What machines crush, filter, press, and purify every millimeter of this tropical raw material? Who are the hands, often invisible, that begin this journey? And more, what are they not telling you about this process? What details are ignored, hidden, or simply forgotten in the vastness of the production lines? Get ready to discover the hidden side of the coconut, a side where nothing is discarded, everything is transformed, and each step reveals a new layer of complexity. In this video, we will dive together into a universe where nature and engineering work side by side, where the heat of the tropical land meets the precise coldness of industrial machines. You will get to know the behind the scenes of an industry that moves billions of dollars, generates thousands of jobs, and keeps centuries-old traditions alive, while at the same time evolving with automation and technological advances. An industry that never sleeps, that operates day and night, crushing, drying, packaging, and storing. A world hidden behind metal doors, noisy corridors, and digital controls, where each coconut is more than just a fruit. It is raw material for a highly sophisticated global system. But be careful. What you're about to see may change forever the way you view this seemingly simple food. Because, believe me, behind each spoonful of coconut candy, each drop of coconut oil, or each container of plant-based milk, there is a chain of processes as well orchestrated as an industrial choreography. Nothing there happens by chance. From the choice of soil where the palm tree will be planted to the sensors that control the ideal temperature for cold pressing, everything is calculated, everything is supervised, everything is optimized. We are about to open the doors to a world that few know about, a universe where the tradition of artisanal cultivation meets the relentless logic of mass production, where human sweat still mixes with the steam of industrial boilers, where each particle of the coconut, the water, the pulp, the shell, the oil, the fiber, has a predetermined destiny, a strategic function, and a market value. Nothing is wasted, everything is used. And in the end, when the product is on the shelves, packaged and ready for consumption, few can imagine the entire journey it has taken. So, if you think that the coconut is just a tropical fruit, you are about to discover a very different truth. A hidden plot full of gears, stainless steel tanks, synchronized production lines, and export strategies that connect entire countries. In this video, you will not just see a food being processed, you will see a living, breathing, and incredibly ingenious chain, where biology, engineering, economics, and even culture intertwine. Stay with us, because in the next few minutes, we will peel back, layer by layer, one of the most surprising industrial processes in the modern food industry. And in the end, you may never look at a coconut the same way again. The starting point for this fascinating journey is in tropical and subtropical areas of the planet, where intense heat, constant humidity, and frequent rains form the perfect setting for the development of one of the most emblematic and versatile plants in human history, the coconut palm. This species, scientifically known as Cocos nucifera, is one of the oldest cultivated by humans, and its presence dates back to millennia of coexistence with native populations. Tall, slender, and resilient, these trees can reach an impressive 30 meters in height and surprisingly maintain their productivity for up to 8 decades, withstanding time and the elements. In countries strategically positioned within these climate zones, such as Indonesia, the Philippines, India, Brazil, and Sri Lanka, vast tracts of land, totaling millions of hectares, are carefully dedicated to the specialized cultivation of the coconut palm. In these places, coconut cultivation is not only an agricultural activity, but a socio-economic pillar that supports thousands of communities. Each tree, depending on its age, soil health management, and regional climate variations, can produce 70 to 100 fruits per year. This number may seem small compared to global demand, but the organization and intensity of plantations can supply a gigantic and constantly expanding industry. Although in many regions, cultivation still follows traditional and artisanal methods, where local workers skillfully climb the smooth trunks using only a rudimentary rope, bare feet, and a sharpened machete, modernization is beginning to take hold in certain areas. Today, technologies such as telescopic rods, hydraulic equipment, and even agricultural drones are used to monitor the ripening of the fruits and optimize harvesting. There are also unusual practices that still stand the test of time, such as in Thailand, where small trained monkeys are still used to efficiently harvest coconuts, a controversial method but deeply rooted in local culture. After harvesting, the coconuts are gathered at strategic points on the plantations for initial sorting. This is when the industrial destination of each fruit is determined. The youngest coconuts, still full of water and with gelatinous pulp, are destined for consumption in natura and for the extraction of coconut water, one of the most valued products in the natural beverage market. The mature fruits, with firm, oily pulp, are then processed to extract oil, manufacture coconut milk, flour, and other byproducts that supply different segments of the food and cosmetics industries. But what sustains this production cycle begins in the soil. The coconut tree is a plant that prefers sandy, well-drained soils with a moderate degree of salinity, characteristics often found in coastal regions. Its roots, although not deeply rooted, spread horizontally in a wide manner, allowing a large absorption area and an impressive adaptation to the most varied tropical microclimates. In many producing regions, the intercropping system is adopted, in which other crops such as bananas, mangoes, pineapples, or cocoa are planted between the rows of coconut trees. This type of management increases biodiversity, improves soil structure, naturally reduces pests, and also generates additional income for local producers. Coconut production, more than a technical agricultural practice, is an activity steeped in culture, history, and identity. In hundreds of villages and rural communities, daily life revolves around the rhythms imposed by the seasons, rainfall, and the ripening cycles of the fruits. There is ancestral wisdom present in each stage of this process, from planting to harvesting, passed down from generation to generation, often without the aid of books or manuals, but guided by observation, experience, and a deep respect for nature. Each coconut that reaches the end consumer, whether it is presented in its natural form, canned, dehydrated, or refined into oil, carries with it an invisible story. Before being packaged, transported, and sold, It has gone through a silent journey. It was born in a tropical environment, nourished by the sun and rain, harvested with human skill or with the help of technology, selected with precision, and finally sent to an industrial complex where it will be transformed into a highly valued input. It is at this point that the industrial process begins to take center stage. What to many seems to be just an exotic fruit is in fact a raw material of extremely high value for several industries, especially the food industry. Upon entering the industrial facilities, each coconut goes through a series of rigorously controlled stages: cleaning, drying, mechanical opening, separation of the shell, pressing of the pulp, filtration of the oil, extraction of the water, and processing of the fibers. Each part of the fruit has a destination. Nothing is wasted. The shell is transformed into activated charcoal or agricultural substrate. The fiber becomes stuffing, rope, or biodegradable blanket. The water is bottled. The oil is refined for food or cosmetic use. In this scenario, the integration between agricultural production and industrial processing reveals a remarkable example of efficiency and sustainability. It is a production chain that functions like a living organism, where all parts are interconnected. Every decision made in the field, from the spacing between seedlings to the type of irrigation used, directly impacts the productivity of the industry in the future. And in the same way, technological advances in factories drive new agricultural practices. In a constant cycle of feedback and innovation, the cultivation and processing of coconuts represent together one of the most complex and admired gears in the global food industry. And this is just the beginning. In the next steps, we will see how the interior of each fruit is transformed with surgical precision into high added value products, exploring to the maximum the potential of a plant that for centuries has fed, sustained, and driven entire communities. From here, nature gives way to engineering, and tropical flavor meets the stainless steel of modern production lines. Prepare to enter the heart of the coconut industry. After the harvesting phase, a new decisive stage begins: the transport of the coconuts from the plantations, often located in areas that are difficult to access, to the specialized centers where they will be sorted and industrialized. Although this task may seem simple at first glance, it involves challenging logistics adapted to the reality of each producing region. The tropical areas where coconut plantations predominate, such as parts of Vietnam, Indonesia, India, Brazil, and the Philippines, are often marked by uneven terrain, narrow trails, dense forests, steep slopes, or even flooded areas. In these circumstances, the transportation of the fruits needs to adapt to the environment, and technology gives way to local creativity. In some regions, farmers still rely on artisanal boats made of light wood to navigate narrow canals and rivers, carrying piles of coconuts on journeys that last hours. This scene, which could appear on a tropical postcard, is an essential part of the functioning of the production chain and the livelihood of thousands of small producers. In other scenarios, the coconuts are transported by animal-drawn carts, modified motorcycles with reinforced platforms, or even bicycles adapted to support large volumes. These solutions, although rudimentary, are incredibly efficient in contexts where mechanization is limited and where paved roads have not yet arrived. At the end of this stage, the fruits arrive at collection and processing centers, places specially prepared to handle large volumes and where the informality of the fields gives way to organization and technique. At this point, the process begins to take on a more systematic and technical form. The coconuts are carefully unloaded, arranged in reception areas, and subjected to detailed sorting. Initially, they are weighed to record volume and yield. Then they undergo visual and tactile inspection, carried out by experienced workers who, with a simple glance or light touch, can identify the stage of ripeness, the integrity of the shell, the internal liquid content, and even possible signs of fermentation or deterioration. Sorting the fruits is a critical stage, as it determines the industrial destination of each batch. The youngest fruits, with green skin and still gelatinous flesh, are used for direct consumption or for extracting coconut water, one of the most highly valued natural beverages on the current market. The mature fruits, with brown skin and firm, lipid-rich pulp, are sent to more complex processes such as oil extraction or milk and flour production. Even coconuts with minor damage can be used to make fibers or organic compost, reinforcing the concept of total use and minimum waste. In more modern facilities, this entire process is assisted by cutting-edge technology. Automated conveyor belts, weight sensors, infrared scanning cameras, and computerized systems perform separation with high precision and speed. Even so, in many producing countries, the manual method predominates, supporting local jobs and strengthening the rural economy. This coexistence between the traditional and the technological demonstrates the flexibility of the coconut chain, which adapts according to the available resources without compromising the final quality. During this stage, the first rigorous quality control also takes place. Fruits that show cracks, signs of mold, strong odor, or advanced fermentation are immediately discarded. The rest are temporarily stored in ventilated warehouses protected from direct sunlight, awaiting processing. This care ensures that the final product has a high standard of hygiene and conservation, whether it is intended for the food, cosmetics, or pharmaceutical industries. With the fruits ready for the next stage, the most technical and intensive process in the chain begins: industrial transformation. It is at this point that the coconut ceases to be just a harvested fruit and begins to be treated as a strategic, rich, versatile, and extremely valued raw material in the global market. The journey now takes place inside the factories, true technological complexes where precision, hygiene, and efficiency are the watchwords. The reception of the coconuts begins with unloading onto automated production lines or pre-processing areas, where the fruits are taken on conveyor belts to the cleaning stage. Here, the outer shell is carefully washed to remove dirt, impurities, plant debris, and transport residues. This stage is essential to guarantee the sanitary quality of the derived products and to avoid contamination in the subsequent process. After cleaning, the coconuts move on to the opening stage. In more modern manufacturing units, specific machines break the shell with precision, separating it from the internal pulp without damaging the contents. In small factories or cooperatives, this work is still done manually, using tools such as hammers, curved knives, or specially adapted cutting instruments. Once opened, the coconuts reveal their thick white flesh, the real star of the process. This pulp, rich in natural fats and nutrients, is the basis for a series of products. One of the most important is coconut oil, the production of which requires different methods, depending on the end goal. In the production of virgin oil, the pulp is crushed until it becomes a dense paste and then cold-pressed, without the use of heat or chemical solvents, to preserve aroma, flavor, and nutritional properties. In large-scale industrial lines, hot pressing or centrifugation methods are applied to increase efficiency and accelerate the extraction volume. After extraction, the oil undergoes multiple filtrations, is purified, bottled, and stored under controlled conditions. Another important derivative is dehydrated grated coconut, obtained by drying the pulp after separating it from the shell. This ingredient is widely used in confectionery, baking, cereal production, energy bars, and even gourmet dishes. To produce coconut milk, the ground pulp is mixed with hot water, which is then pressed to extract a thick, creamy liquid, ideal as a substitute for animal milk in vegan diets, oriental recipes, or lactose-free preparations. At the same time, coconut water, extracted when the fruit is opened, is quickly pasteurized to ensure its preservation and maintenance of nutrients. Because it is rich in natural electrolytes such as potassium, sodium, and magnesium, it has become an extremely popular drink among athletes and people seeking natural hydration, and nothing is lost in this process. After being separated, the coconut shell is dried, ground, and reused in multiple ways as raw material for activated carbon used in water filters, biofuels, agricultural substrates, and inputs for the production of blankets, biodegradable vases, and industrial parts. The inner fibers, in turn, are converted into fillings, carpets, ropes, and even components for the automotive industry. Coconut products are not restricted to the basic industry. In gastronomy, it plays an important role in both traditional recipes and culinary innovations. A classic example is coconut candy, prepared with grated coconut, sugar, condensed milk, dried fruits and spices, such as cinnamon, ginger, or cloves. Slowly cooked until it acquires a firm and aromatic consistency, this candy is molded into portions and consumed at parties, coffees, and typical desserts from various regions of the world. Other popular products include coconut candies, energy bars, crunchy toppings, and regional cakes, such as the famous coconut balls of Brazilian, Indian, and Colombian cuisine. These foods are manufactured on an industrial scale, with strict control of temperature, cooking time, packaging, and storage. Coconut flour, obtained from the dried pulp after extracting the milk or oil, is another example of the fruit's versatility. Rich in fiber, naturally gluten-free, and low in carbohydrates, this flour has become a true superfood. Used in the production of bread, pancakes, pizza dough, breaded foods, and functional recipes, it is highly sought after by those who follow healthy, ketogenic, or vegan diets. In addition, coconut occupies a prominent place in production lines aimed at replacing ingredients of animal origin. Its oil replaces traditional butters and fats in processed foods. Coconut milk is an alternative to cow's milk, and the vegetable fat derived from coconut serves as a base for creams, fillings, sauces, and even vegan ice cream. All of this is carried out under strict quality control, with health protocols, laboratory tests, and continuous monitoring of temperature, humidity, and purity at all stages of the process.